Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, your ultimate destination for all things classic, cult, and downright quirky in the world of movies and entertainment. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell so you never miss out on our deep dives, countdowns, and behind-the-scenes stories from Hollywood and beyond. Today we're blasting off into the wild, wacky, and wonderfully cheesy sci-fi space movies of the 1970s. From rubber-suited aliens to laser guns that look like flashlights, these 16 cult classics will take you on a cosmic trip you won't forget. So buckle up, and let's explore the top cheesiest sci-fi space flicks that defined a decade of interstellar imagination. Only here on Globewise Entertainment. 1. Starcrash 1978. The space opera that forgot the script. In a galaxy not so far away, but definitely on a shoestring budget, Starcrash crashed onto the scene in 1978, Italy's unapologetic response to Star Wars. Directed by Luigi Cozzi, this cosmic roller coaster stars Caroline Munro as a leather-clad space smuggler and David Hasselhoff as a glowing sword-wielding prince. Yes, that David Hasselhoff. The plot? Something about a doomsday weapon, a missing prince, and a planet made of lava. But let's be honest, no one was watching this for the story. They came for the stop-motion robots, exploding model spaceships, and a robot sidekick with a thick southern drawl. That's right, a cowboy robot in space. The film throws everything at the screen: hyperspace travel done with strobe lights, slow-motion laser fights, and a cameo from a dead-serious Christopher Plummer, who somehow delivers Shakespearean gravitas amidst plastic sets and disco lighting. Starcrash is gloriously ridiculous, hopelessly ambitious, and endlessly entertaining. It's the kind of film where logic goes out the airlock and cheese reigns supreme, and that's exactly why we love it. 2. Zardoz 1974. The gun, the diaper, and the giant flying head. In a distant, post-apocalyptic future, civilization has crumbled, and what rises in its place is nothing short of psychedelic madness. From the heavens descends Zardoz, a giant floating stone head that roars across the sky, declaring, "The gun is good. The penis is evil." Out steps Sean Connery, fresh off his James Bond glory days, now sporting a red loincloth, thigh-high boots, and a ponytail, a costume so infamous it became legend. Connery plays Zed, a savage exterminator, who kills on command until he discovers a secret. Zardoz is a lie. The so-called god is actually part of a bizarre plan hatched by bored immortals who live in a sterile telepathic commune known as the Vortex. What follows is a surreal descent into madness. Telepathy battles, aging in reverse, a sentient computer, invisible force fields, and enough philosophical rambling to make Plato throw in the towel. Critics were confused. Audiences were stunned. And decades later, Zardoz is still celebrated as one of the cheesiest, weirdest, and most unforgettable sci-fi films of the 1970s. It's part space opera, part fever dream, and all cheese. 3. The Black Hole, 1979. Disney's dark dive into cosmic chaos. In the cold depths of space, the crew of the Palomino discovers a mysterious, long-lost ship, the Cygnus, hovering at the edge of a swirling black hole. Against all common sense and clearly ignoring every horror trope, they decide to board it. Inside, they find a ghost ship operated by a creepy genius named Dr. Reinhardt and a silent army of cloaked humanoid robots. But things aren't as quiet as they seem. The ship hides twisted secrets, a rogue killer robot named Maximilian with rotating death blades, and a madman's dream of venturing through the black hole itself. As philosophical babble clashes with clunky dialogue, the movie descends into visual insanity. What starts as a family-friendly space adventure ends in a metaphysical finale that looks like 2001, a space odyssey met a haunted house. Despite its awkward tone and campy robots, The Black Hole gave us one of the weirdest, most ambitious Disney endings ever, and proved that even the House of Mouse couldn't resist the irresistible cheese of 1970s sci-fi. 4. Logan's Run, 1976. The future never looked so shiny, or so ageist. In the neon-lit domes of 2274, life is beautiful, youthful, and terrifyingly short. In Logan's run, everyone is forced to renew, read, get vaporized when they hit the ripe old age of 30. Why? Because apparently in the future, society just runs smoother without wrinkles. Our hero Logan 5 is a Sandman, a cop whose job is to hunt down runners who refuse to go quietly into that glowing carousel death trap. But when Logan himself turns 30 and starts asking questions, he becomes a runner too. While the story explores dystopian themes like population control and the value of free will, the execution is gloriously cheesy. Skin-tight pastel jumpsuits? Check. Glowing crystal hand implants? Absolutely. A robot named Box who freezes people and recites poetry like a broken Roomba? Oh yes. And let's not forget the infamous scene in which Logan and Jessica discover a long-lost library and a confused old man surrounded by cats. Logan's run wanted to be deep, but in true 70s sci-fi fashion, it got tangled in its own futuristic fashion statements and laser light shows. Still, it's a cult favorite, a shiny relic from a time when society thought the future meant no aging and lots of silver spandex. 5. Dark Star 1974. The stoner sci-fi that floated too far. Once upon a time in deep space, very deep space, a crew of apathetic astronauts aboard the Dark Star spaceship were tasked with blowing up unstable planets. Yes, planets. With smart bombs. And guess what? One of those bombs develops a god complex. In this 1974 low-budget gem by a young John Carpenter and co-writer Dan O'Bannon, everything is falling apart. The ship, the crew's sanity, and even the beach ball alien they somehow brought on board. Yes, a beach ball with claws that screeches like a rubber duck, the film's most deadly creature. What started as a student film turned into a full-length sci-fi comedy filled with existential dread, absurd dialogue, and some of the cheapest-looking special effects to ever grace the cosmos. It's 2001, a space odyssey, if everyone was bored, stoned, and surrounded by duct tape. Yet for all its clunky charm and cringeworthy acting, Dark Star became a cult favorite, inspiring future space parodies and proving that even a few $1,000s and a rubber ball can earn a place in sci-fi history. 6. Message from Space. 1978. In a galaxy not so far away, Message from Space blasts off with all the flair and flair of a cosmic disco party. This Japanese sci-fi extravaganza was created as Japan's answer to Star Wars, and boy, does it deliver in cheese and charm. Picture glowing swords that look like neon light sticks, space samurai with flowing robes, and villains in armor that seems more fashion runway than battle-ready. The story? A ragtag group of rebels races against evil forces to save a distant planet, armed with flashy laser guns, unpredictable special effects, and a whole lot of earnestness. Sometimes the plot feels like a jumbled constellation, but that's part of the charm. It's pure 1970s space opera fun wrapped in bright colors and over-the-top costumes. Whether it's the clunky robot sidekicks or the epic but occasionally wooden acting, Message from Space is a perfect example of the era's cosmic cheese. It's campy, it's wild, and it's impossible not to love. 7. Battle Beyond the Stars 1980 squeaks in for relevance. Though technically released in 1980, Battle Beyond the Stars was born from the wild imagination of the late 70s sci-fi craze, and it fits perfectly in our cheesy space saga. Produced by Roger Corman, the king of low-budget cult classics, this movie is a glorious mashup of Star Wars and the Magnificent Seven, set in outer space. What makes it cheese-tastic? The starships look like body parts, literally. The main ship is shaped like a giant human skull, while others resemble a flying heart and a dragonfly. Add in a ragtag crew of space mercenaries, over-the-top laser battles, and a villain with a cape that flaps in zero gravity, and you get a campy space opera that's equal parts thrilling and hilariously odd. If you love ridiculous effects, cheesy dialogue, and that unmistakable 70s vibe, Battle Beyond the Stars is a must-watch cult classic that proudly carries the torch of cheesy space cinema. 8. Saturn III 1980. The sexiest and weirdest space station showdown. Okay, so Saturn III technically came out in 1980, but it's dripping with 1970s sci-fi style. From the disco-era fashion choices to the slow-burn atmospheric pacing that feels right out of the decade's campy playbook. The movie stars Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett as scientists living alone on a space station orbiting Saturn, working on groundbreaking research, which mostly involves a lot of awkward flirting and eye-candy shots. Their peaceful, isolated life gets shaken up when Harvey Keitel shows up as a dangerously unhinged visitor, and things quickly spiral into an absurd battle for survival. The real star, or should we say villain, here is the robot named Hector, a hulking mechanical menace with a personality programmed for violence and some seriously slow, jerky movements that make it look like it's performing an offbeat robot dance routine. Hector's over-the-top rampage is a highlight of the film's low-budget charm. Saturn III is a heady cocktail of slow-mo stares, cheesy special effects, and 90s-style robot mayhem, all wrapped in a glossy disco-lit space station that screams late 70s sci-fi, even though it came out just a smidge into the next decade. If you're in the mood for a movie where high concept meets high cheese, and robots get to go full-on psychotic, Saturn III is a must-watch trip down memory lane. 9. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, 1979. Imagine waking up after being frozen in space for 500 years and landing smack dab in a future that looks like a disco fever dream. That's exactly what happens to astronaut Buck Rogers in this 1979 space adventure. Originally created as a TV movie pilot, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century tried to capture the magic of Star Wars and Flash Gordon with its flashy costumes, shiny silver helmets, and more neon lights than a roller rink. But oh, the cheese! From those unmistakably 70s mullets and jumpsuits to the sometimes hilariously stiff acting, Buck Rogers feels like a glittering time capsule of retro sci-fi optimism, all while battling weird alien villains and piloting some of the campiest spaceships ever designed. The sets scream cardboard, and the special effects? Well, let's just say laser beams often look like glowing sticks waved around by enthusiastic extras. Despite its cheesiness, Buck Rogers gained a cult following thanks to its catchy theme song and quirky charm. It was so campy that it became a beloved classic for sci-fi fans, who appreciate the era's unique blend of imagination and budget limitations. Plus, who can resist the lovable hero navigating a world where disco ruled the galaxy? 10. The Humanoid, 1979. Imagine if Star Wars and Dungeons & Dragons had a bizarre Italian sci-fi baby. That's The Humanoid for you. This 1979 cult classic is a wild cocktail of glowing magic staffs, glittering spacesuits, and a plot that hops from planet to planet like a hyperactive space bunny. Starring Richard Kiel, yes, the towering jaws from the James Bond movies, as the eponymous humanoid, this film throws everything into the mix: sorcerers, space wizards, and a quest for a powerful energy source called the Draconian Crystal. The bad guys are decked out in sparkly robes that look like disco nightmares, while the heroes hop on spaceships with all the charm of a Renaissance fair. The story is so delightfully ridiculous it almost feels like a cosmic fever dream. Think laser swords wielded like magic wands, robots that barely pass for machines, and a soundtrack that sounds like someone trapped in a synthesizer factory. While it's clear the budget wasn't astronomical, The Humanoid has become a shining gem in the so-bet-it's-good sci-fi galaxy. It's perfect for anyone who loves campy costumes, confusing plots, and that irresistible 70s sci-fi vibe where creativity often outran logic. In short, if you want to see how Italian filmmakers turned the space opera into a glittery, groovy, and utterly unforgettable adventure, The Humanoid is your ticket. 11. Starship Invasions, 1977. Welcome to Starship Invasions, a movie that feels like someone tossed a handful of late 70s sci-fi cliches into a blender and hit puree. This Canadian-American space flick stars the legendary Christopher Lee, yes, the iconic Dracula himself, in a surprisingly low-key role as an alien trying to save Earth from a hostile invasion. The plot? Aliens come to Earth with a warning, and some pretty wild gadgets, but of course things don't go smoothly. What really steals the show here are the special effects, or maybe the lack thereof. The flying saucers look like paper plates on strings, and the alien tech has all the convincing power of a school science project. And if that's not enough, The costumes and hairstyles scream disco-era Saturday Night Fever more than intergalactic warfare. Prepare for questionable fashion choices, bizarre dialogue, and moments that feel straight out of a low-budget TV show. But despite all the cheese, or maybe because of it, Starship Invasions has earned a cult following among fans of campy space flicks. It's a perfect example of how the 1970s gave us big dreams in the cosmos, with very modest budgets. So buckle up, because this is one starship you won't want to miss, even if it's for all the hilariously wrong reasons. 12. Galaxina 1980. Late entry, still pure 70s flavor. Sliding in just after the decade's official curtain call, Galaxina is like a neon-lit time capsule bursting with everything that made late 70s sci-fi so gloriously goofy. Imagine a space adventure that's part Star Wars parody, part Blazing Saddles in outer space, and all wrapped up in campy charm. At the center of it all is Galaxina herself, a robot played by the stunning Dorothy Stratton, who brings both sexy sci-fi allure and deadpan humor to the role. The crew is a mismatched, hilarious bunch, from a space pirate who's more slapstick than sinister to a stoner android who might just be the chillest bot in the galaxy. The plot? Oh, it's a wild ride involving a mission to a mysterious planet, treasure hunts, and alien encounters, all told with intentionally cheesy dialogue, hilariously bad special effects, and costumes that scream disco meets outer space. What really makes Galaxina stick out, though, is how it wears its cheesiness like a badge of honor. It never takes itself seriously, inviting viewers to kick back, laugh at the absurdity, and enjoy a colorful slice of retro sci-fi silliness that feels like a final shout-out to the 70s before the genre went fully blockbuster. If you love camp, robots with attitude, and cosmic comedy, Galaxina is a must-watch cheesy gem that perfectly rounds out our list. 13. Laser Blast, 1978. Strap in for one of the ultimate 1970s sci-fi cheesefests, Laser Blast. This low-budget cult classic tells the story of a lonely teenage boy named Billy, who stumbles upon a mysterious alien laser cannon buried in the desert. Naturally, instead of turning it over to the authorities or using it responsibly, Billy decides to go full-on space warrior, with disastrous results. Armed with his newfound power, Billy embarks on a wild rampage, battling imaginary enemies and ultimately transforming into a monstrous creature thanks to the alien tech's corrupting influence. The special effects? Think stop-motion aliens and explosions that look more like sparklers than laser beams. The acting? Well, let's just say the wooden delivery adds an unintentional charm that sci-fi fans have come to love. Laser Blast became a favorite for fans of Sobotit's cinema, earning a cult following and even landing a spot on Mystery Science Theater 3000, the ultimate badge of cheesy honor. With its ridiculous premise, low-budget effects, and sheer earnestness, Laser Blast perfectly captures the quirky spirit of 70s B-movie sci-fi. If you want a movie that's equal parts cringe and nostalgia, this is your go-to cosmic misadventure. 14. The Shape of Things to Come, 1979. This one's a curious little gem, and definitely a head-scratcher. Despite sharing its title with H.G. Wells' famous 1933 novel, The Shape of Things to Come, 1979, has almost nothing to do with Wells' vision of the future. Instead, it's a low-budget Canadian sci-fi flick set on a distant colony planet called New Earth. Imagine wooden acting, awkward dialogue, and a cast that looks like they wandered onto the set without a script. The special effects? Well, they're about as convincing as cardboard robots and recycled stock footage. It's the kind of movie where you're not sure if you should laugh, cringe, or both. The story revolves around a group of colonists facing mysterious dangers and political intrigue, but the plot meanders so much you might find yourself wondering if the script was tossed around the editing room like a hot potato. Despite all this, or maybe because of it, The Shape of Things to Come has earned a cult following among fans who appreciate its unintentional comedy and earnest, but awkward attempt at epic space drama. In a way, this movie perfectly captures the spirit of 1970s cheesy sci-fi: big dreams, tiny budgets, and a whole lot of heart, even if the execution is a little rough around the edges. 15. Space is the Place, 1974. Welcome to one of the most uniquely cosmic entries on our list. Space is the Place is less a traditional sci-fi movie, and more a wild genre-bending journey into space funk and Afrofuturism. Starring the legendary jazz musician Sun Ra, this film is as much a psychedelic musical as it is a sci-fi flick. The story follows Sun Ra, a mysterious space traveler who returns to Earth to rescue African Americans from a broken, segregated society. His mission? To transport them to a new planet where they can start fresh. A black utopia in the stars. Along the way, you get trippy musical interludes, cosmic philosophy, and some of the most eccentric special effects the 1970s had to offer. Cheesy? Absolutely, in the best way possible. With its low-budget visuals, otherworldly costumes, and surreal storytelling, Space is the Place is a shining example of how 1970s sci-fi dared to mix social commentary, funk music, and space adventure into one unforgettable package. It's a cult classic that's as much a product of its time as it is a visionary, funky space odyssey, making it a perfect pick for any list of the cheesiest, coolest sci-fi space movies from the era. 16. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. Imagine an alien arriving on Earth, but instead of laser battles or shiny spaceships, you get a moody, surreal journey through loneliness and human frailty. The Man Who Fell to Earth stars David Bowie in his first major film role, playing Thomas Jerome Newton, a mysterious extraterrestrial who comes to Earth seeking water for his drought-stricken home planet. Now, this movie isn't cheesy in the traditional sense. No goofy costumes or campy effects here. Instead, it's a slow, psychedelic, and sometimes baffling exploration of alienation and addiction, drenched in eerie 1970s aesthetics. With its haunting soundtrack and unconventional storytelling, it's more art house sci-fi than pulpy space adventure. But that's exactly what makes it so unforgettable and cult-worthy. Bowie's ethereal presence and the film's up-pacing give it a dreamy, almost hypnotic vibe that feels like floating in space without a map. It's weird, it's wonderful, and it's definitely a must-watch for anyone diving into the offbeat side of 70s sci-fi. And that's a wrap on our journey through the cheesiest sci-fi space movies of the 1970s. Which one was your favorite? Did any of these cult classics make you laugh, cringe, or maybe even want to watch them again? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your thoughts. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and join our community of movie fans who love diving deep into Hollywood's wildest stories.